And we are live. Welcome back to Sideline Talk podcast. What a weekend of football. Arsenal are back, top of the league. North London is and always will be red. Absolutely buzzing. To be honest, I'm still recovering from the weekend, but to discuss that and Liverpool's not so good result over the weekend, and of course their game tonight, I've got Dale and Lee back with me. Dale, how are things, mate? You feeling confident?
Yeah, all good, mate. Not a great result for us at the weekend, was it? I'm sure we'll talk about it, but yeah, all things considered, I'm all right.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, look, football is football. At the end of the day, it's not always gold. Kingman Kingham, you okay, mate? Good weekend.
Yeah, all good, mate. Looking forward to tonight's game. Already got the TV ready. Bring on Rangers.
Yeah, sounding confident, mate. I'm surprised after recent results, but
Champions League nights, mate. You might find out what they are again next year.
Look, mind the gap. But yeah, we
will. It's going to get tasty
on
tonight, isn't it? It's going to get tasty in this one.
We will crack on because we've obviously got to discuss Arsenal versus Liverpool on Sunday, which we are all going to. So that'll be interesting, and we've got to go through the weekend's games as well. I'll start on the derby because obviously it was the first game of the weekend. Lee, I'll come to you as an outsider because I know you said you watched it. What did you make of Arsenal's performances? And there was obviously several decisions made by the referee. Do you feel like it was a good game all round for Anthony Taylor, and talk about the game itself as well? Like, do you feel like it was a well-deserved performance from the Gunners?
The only thing from Anthony Taylor is I thought the red card was a little bit harsh, but at the same time, I thought he probably deserves a red card for the pure stupidity of the foul. It's like there's absolutely no need to do it. I feel like this is a very easy game to analyse because I thought Tottenham were pretty shit, most of it, and Arsenal pretty decent.
What do you think of Tottenham? Shit.
Yeah. It kind of went as I think most of us predicted it, and it just went with the home team. I think the main surprise to me was Thomas Partey actually hitting one on target and not blazing it over the bar. Cracking goal from him.
It's taken him a while, but it was worth it in the end. The wait was worth it.
It was worth it. It's good performance by Arsenal. They've done well. They're flying at the top of the league. I think the start
11 points, mate. Don't mind that.
I think if I was an Arsenal fan, there's no reason to sort of think why they can't keep this going for the rest of the season. Really, I know that's maybe sort of pushing their luck a bit, getting their hopes up a bit, maybe too much. But you can only churn out your performances week in, week out, and they're doing it.
Yeah, look, first 25 minutes, I thought we were brilliant. I thought we went out in the right gear. And that's what you've got to do in these sort of derbies. That goal from Partey was just magnificent out of nowhere. Like, White just plays it to him. I expected exactly what you just said, blasted over. I was actually just behind the goal. I was expecting someone in the upper tier above me to sort of catch it. But when I see that guy in top corner, the crowd went absolutely mental. I ended up nearly breaking my back, I think. I was all over the gaff. Great atmosphere throughout the entire game. Ben White stood his ground. I thought he really did well up against Son. I said last week that would be the real test for Ben White. You know, like you're up against the best left winger in the league, and we didn't see anything of Son really. There was a few chances here,
very poor Son.
Here or there. Like, yeah, there was a chance or two. Ramsdale made a good save at one point, but we kept him really quiet. And same for Harry Kane, Saliba. That guy just needs. I don't know what's going to stop him. Obviously, he's going to have certain tests coming up. Like he's got one against Núñez and one of the best front threes again on Sunday which we'll discuss.
I think Gabriel's more of a worry, to be honest. He's on occasions I do feel like he's got a bit of a mistake in him, like he showed.
I think Saliba's stepped up, and now that just means Gabriel's got to keep his head up really. Because I agree. I think this season
very silly challenge he made in the first half to give away that penalty.
And there was no arguments for me either. There was random people at half time in the concourse saying to me, "Oh, it's not a penalty." Straight away penalty. Like, how can you look at that? And I was the other side of the pitch, and I could even see straight away Didn't even need to look at what was going on after or see them run over to whatever. It was straight away. It was daft, really. Just a bit hasty. I think sometimes I get that it's a derby and you want to keep the lead in. You want to keep our lead. We was only 1-0 up at that point. But yeah, just a bit reckless. But Saliba for me, Xhaka, oh my word, that boy. Look, I know Dale's there and he's just probably wanting to say something. But someone tell me what that guy is doing wrong this season. There is nothing. Absolutely brilliant. And I was looking at stats. He always turns up in the big games. I think Manchester City are the only big team he's left to score against out of the top 6. But yeah, again, he done it magnificent. Him and Partey together, just phenomenal. And yeah, I'm looking forward to Sunday. I'm more confident than ever. As Lee Kingham said, I don't see why you would not be confident at this point. Bar City, which we'll touch on as well shortly, we've got to be the one team you look at and you just don't want to play against because we're cooking with gas. But yeah, moving on because it can't all be about Arsenal. We are going to touch on a result that did shock me. Obviously, De Zerbi, first game in charge for Brighton. And yeah, they come out and they hit the ground running. Liverpool 3, Brighton 3. Brighton were 2-0 up at half time. If you had a bet on Brighton to win with Paddy Power or Bet 365, you done very well because they paid out at 2-0, 5-1. I was reading, which I find bizarre. I don't get why bookies do that. By the way, why would you pay out at 2-0? Like in football, anything can happen. All it takes is a little goal, back in the race. But yeah, Dale, come to me, mate, and tell me your thoughts on this one. Trossard, absolutely brilliant in this game, tearing your defence apart.
Mate, it's just, I think, well, as soon as I saw the lineup, I texted and said, this is going to go tits up. As soon as I saw the lineup, I think that's been a problem pretty much all season with us. Every time I've looked at the lineup, bar tonight, I've literally dropped my head down and gone, oh, for fuck's sake, because he keeps getting it fundamentally wrong, in my opinion, and he keeps picking players that are not in form. And I think the biggest problem for Liverpool at the minute is not that players are not in form, it's there's no repercussions for them when they're not in form. So the squad depth isn't there for us to take out Van Dijk when he's playing badly. Robertson knows more or less he's going to play regardless whether he plays well. Trent the same, Fabinho the same, Salah the same. They know they're starting the next game, and I think that's part of the problem. And I just saw it coming, mate. I really did. And what annoyed me the most was reading the comments after the game where Klopp said we didn't know what Brighton were going to do. I don't buy that. That's nonsense. I think we all knew that they were probably going to come out and do the same thing.
Is that in a sense of because they've got a new manager? We don't.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, but I don't look at it like that. If you look at it from an outsider looking in, he didn't have a lot of time to work with them due to the international break. A lot of players were coming back late. He hadn't had 3 or 4 days to work with them fully in terms of the full squad. So that he was probably just studying videos of what they've been doing before. And then we're going to come out and do what Brighton do, which was
they always look to Trossard as well. Like you can't tell me you're not going to know about that. He's literally the best of a good bunch, to be honest.
And listen, I would never ever call for like Klopp to leave or nothing like that. But I can criticise him when I think he's got it wrong. And I think fundamentally this season, his team selection is wrong. And I think the system that we've been playing is now. I think that football has cycles where you have the 4-4-2 era, you had the 4-5-1. Then it was like a 4-2-3-1. Then it's gone now to a 4-3-3, which obviously City play, Arsenal play, Liverpool play. And I think that cycle's starting to run out again now, and it's starting to evolve again because teams are figuring out how to beat you and how to get in behind you. And I think that at the minute, teams are just figuring out ways to be effective against us, whereas we used to always be on the front foot and always didn't give teams a chance to even settle. But the team's another year older, the players are another year older. Klopp's demanded so much of them over the course of a 5-6 year period, and the players now are a lot of them now are into their 30s. And there's a saying in football, it's a bit of a cliche, but you do get old overnight in football. And I just wonder whether we've dropped off that little gear or two that stops us being as effective when we're trying to press. And I think that's been the problem. The distances between the midfield and the defence and the strikers in the midfield, the gaps are too big and teams are just able to get out and play. And like I say, when I saw the lineup, mate, I just kind of saw this happening and I thought the substitutions were all wrong. I mean, putting Milner on at left back when you've got an £85 million striker, you've got Diogo Jota sitting on the bench, you've got Luis Diaz sitting on the bench, and you're bringing on a 37-year-old centre midfielder to play at left back. When you're trying to, at that point, it was 2-2, so we were looking for a goal. It just didn't make any sense. And then
you ended up going back ahead as well, didn't you?
And this is the thing. So we went 3-2 up, and in my head, I just think, why are we still pushing for the fourth goal? Put on a Joe Gomez, go to a back five if you have to, just get the win, see it out. And I just think little things like that really wind me up, because I just think we're desperate for a win. We're not in good form. We got back after being in a terrible position in the game. We got back to a point where we had the points in our hands for 10 minutes to go,
undeservedly as well, to be honest.
And we've thrown it away. Yeah, we've thrown it away through to trying to push forward for a fourth goal. It makes no sense. So, yeah, I was disappointed, mate. I was really angry to be fair. Just with the whole thing, from the setup to the game, to the substitutions, to the tactics, everything was just car crash. And we got lucky to get away with a point.
Do you agree with that, Lee? Do you think perhaps it is a point of Liverpool maybe just being found out now in terms of the way you play and the way you, the formation you set up?
It's a bit of a mixture of things, really. It's hard to put exactly what it is. Obviously, tactical switches are needed. I've seen a lot of people say that maybe it's just a hangover from last year. It's taken too much out of players, going for all 4 trophies, playing every possible game you can play. Obviously, there was injuries from the international break, which is why Núñez, Jota and Diaz didn't start, because the medical team said they weren't allowed to play. So, his hand was forced a little bit. But there is little tactical things in there which I think need to change. Like, I noticed it last year a lot, and it seems to be happening every game this year, is that Trent seems to come inside when we're attacking, and Salah seems to go wide, which I just feel sort of negates a big part of the attack. I feel like it should be Trent overlapping to get the crosses in, like we used to when we was doing the 4-3-3 2 years ago, and Salah should be making the runs inside, and that's where he sort of gets most of his goals. And I don't know why we've changed that. It just seems a bit strange to me. And I feel like I kind of saw this result coming a little bit. I sort of said it last week in the predictions that Brighton is a bit of a bogey team. I didn't feel too positive about it. I was hoping we'd just try and sneak 3 points, and we should have really after making a comeback. It's just same old as it has been for the last 10, 15 games. We start absolutely terribly, and then we have 25 minutes where we're like the Liverpool of old, where we play really well, and then it goes back to being average. And it's just frustrating. And just hopefully with his new formation tonight, he's gonna change a little bit.
I think also it just shows in the fact that he's changed the system tonight, that I think maybe even he's now admitted it and sort of admitted defeat in terms of this system's now not working and something does need to change. And I think
he has said it. He said it after maybe the Napoli game. I think he might have said it, but it's just the fact that we're now inside the season. He hasn't really got the time to do it. It's not like it's pre-season. He can try out loads of different systems. We're like deep into the season now. It's going, so he hasn't really got the time to like trial and error really.
It'll be an interesting game for Trent tonight as well, I think, because I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to see
so much focus on him at the moment.
Yeah, I think his confidence is low. I think it is potentially nearly getting to a Maguire situation. However, Klopp's not doing anything about it at the moment. Trent's just being thrown in every week, and you can see his confidence is low. Like, I think at least two of Trossard's goals, I looked at Trent and I just thought, that's not the player we saw last season.
I think,
and I'm not even a Liverpool fan, but it would just be interesting to see how he sort of responds.
I think with Trent as well, he's still having an impact offensively. It's just that defensively he's getting so exposed. And I looked at the game the other day, and it's just, you can tell when someone's low on confidence just from their decision making. Like, there's so many times in the past where I've seen him get the ball at right back and he just looks up and he just pings a pass over the top into the channels. Whereas now he's second guessing himself and he's taking an extra touch, and he's not thinking about engaging with the winger. He's kind of thinking, I'll sit back, and that's even causing more of a problem because he's hesitating. By the time the winger's got the ball, he's kind of neither here nor there. He's just second.
He just looks uncomfortable, doesn't he? I just don't feel like he looks like he's playing out of position, even though he's not. Let's be honest, he's one of the best right backs in the league, but he just looks like he's not used to being there, which I find a big worry.
He needs to go back to basics. He's movement.
He's obviously been told to do things that he's not comfortable doing. That's how it seems at the moment. Yeah, but I don't know. It'll be interesting.
He doesn't seem to be aware of what's going around him when he's He's defending.
The thing is, as well, we don't know. I know it sounds silly, but we're looking at only from a football perspective. We don't know what's going on outside his life. He could have a lot of things on his mind that aren't to do with football. We're all human beings at the end of the day. We all go through shit day in, day out. And, there could be something seriously going on behind the scenes that we're not aware of in terms of family life or anything, and it's not a coincidence, I don't think, because when we were winning the league and when we won the Champions League, no one questioned him defensively. He still made mistakes defensively, but no one questioned him. Whereas now we're getting questions because maybe Liverpool aren't performing quite as well. So he's now made a bit of a scapegoat, but I still think he's influencing the game offensively, maybe not to the levels he was, but it's just the defensive errors now that are leading to goals. That's why it's getting highlighted. Mm-hmm.
And before we move on, any problems with the lineup tonight, or are you both happy?
Well happy. I'm well happy.
I'm intrigued. I'm a little bit disappointed Harvey Elliott missed out, but I'm intrigued to see
Fabinho on the bench as well, if I'm right. Is that due
to... he's been below par this season, and he had a bit of an altercation with Klopp at the weekend, so it's not really a surprise to see that, to be honest.
I think my biggest thing at the minute with Harvey and Fabio Carvalho is that they're two very, very similar players in the way that they play, and I think that they're both not suited to playing out wide, and I don't think either of them are suited to playing into a midfield three. I think they need to be in a 10 where they can have the freedom to get in between the lines. They're little, quick, nifty players who have got good feet, and I think they need that freedom to be able to almost float, knowing that they've got two players behind them to obviously cover them. And I think that this system will actually bring out the best in both of them, but I don't know how you get both of them in the team at the same time because they're too similar. It's almost Henderson and Milner in terms of their similarities.
That's the thing. Obviously, at the beginning of the season, you did have your injury issues, and at that moment, you were desperate for options. Now you've got players back. It's going to be interesting to see who Klopp goes with, because you've got Diaz, Núñez, Salah, and Firmino. I think Firmino's having one of his best seasons out of a bad bunch. So how you drop him, I don't know.
Fair, we haven't actually mentioned the good part, and that is Firmino. I mean, Haaland aside, is probably stats-wise, he's been the best striker in the league. So, I mean, fair play to him for actually, when everyone's written him off, he's actually the only one who's putting in performances.
I think he's
that's true as well, and it's a good time for him to stand out, like you say. Like £85 million spent on a player in your position,
But I think
it's a bit obvious where you're standing. Then you're looking at it and you're thinking, okay, I'm second option from now on. Even with Diego Jota, he was a second option, so he's come out now, and at the right time, he's been hitting the goals in for you. And I agree. I think obviously Jesus has been really good, but you can't knock Firmino this season. He's fine. Like everyone said, he's more of a link-up player. He's scoring the goals now. He's doing a bit of both. You just need the other pieces to get put together again.
Do you know what I think it is with Firmino as well? I think people overlook the fact that you remember when Ronaldo was at Real Madrid and Benzema used to almost become a supporting act to get Ronaldo into the spaces to score the goals. As soon as Ronaldo left, you saw Benzema kind of transition into the goal scorer and the main man. And I think
Do you think this has happened with him and Mane then?
I think that now Mane's gone, I think Firmino's role has changed, and it gives him the freedom now to get into the dangerous areas where he's going to get his goals from. And I think that little tweak is we're now seeing the best version of Firmino, whereas before we saw a good version, and he was always, I think, sacrificing a bit of his own game to support Mane and Salah.
Yeah, it's good thought. Quick one before we move on to the Manchester derby and then the other results. Just give me a little score prediction, Dale.
A win. I don't care how. A win. 2-0.
Confident. Right. Lee?
2-1. Win.
Interesting. Right. Let's move on. Dale, is it finally time to admit
that scoreline just looks crazy, doesn't it?
Mad game. Listen,
admit defeat, Dale.
Listen, I've never ever questioned Haaland's ability to score goals. The guy is you put him in front of goal, he's a one chance, one goal striker. And in that team, in that City team with De Bruyne, Silva, Grealish, whoever they put in, that really matter. You give that guy a chance, it will end up in the back of the net. There is no denying that. But if you still look at his actual, I think Carragher mentioned it in on Monday Night Football last night, his actual involvement in the game, he had the least touches of any Man City player on the pitch for 90 minutes or however long he was on for. And he still scored a hat-trick. It's the system they found. Do you know what they found? They found a player that suits everything about him. I honestly, hand on heart, if you put Haaland in any other team in the top 6, he doesn't have this goal return. I think it's City's system and City's players are so suited to his game, which is being in the right position at the right time to finish it off. You give that guy a chance.
That second goal as well was just a joke. That ball from KDB, that guy is just in a different planet of confidence and form this season. And to make matters worse, Phil Foden has woken up and answered the call. A hat-trick for them both. This was probably the best Manchester derby I've seen in years. I still don't think it's up there with the North London derby. One, because we can see from the two how clear one is from another. Manchester City I don't see them being stopped, to be honest. I don't see how they drop points this season. I know they did against Wolves, but looking at the games where they've won, it's very hard to look at them and think, oh yeah, you're going to be able to do something. Even with Arsenal, Haaland and KDB are going to be a real force to be reckoned with. I don't see how we're going to stop that train going.
Do you know what I think though? Then with that is they are leaking a lot of goals. And I don't know why that is, but they are leaking a hell of a lot. They conceded 3 away at Newcastle. They've conceded 3 at home to Man City. I don't know if they've even had a clean. I think they had a clean sheet against Wolves. But I can't remember too many clean sheets from them. They are leaking a lot of goals, and I think at the minute, obviously, everything they're touching is turning to goals. But eventually, throughout the season, they are going to come up again in games where it doesn't quite go in. You know, you have them games where you just knock it on the door, they don't go in. I'm just not. I'm not too sure their defense is strong enough.
With this game, you got to remember they didn't have Rodri, Laporte, or Diaz. So, and they've still won 6-3. It's pretty.
That is true. If there's any time to go at Man City, I mean, United did like the goal from Anthony. It was too good to be on the losing side. That was brilliant. That's 2 good goals now. Like he scored against us, and he's showing some promise there. Like, and if you look at the money that United have failed with, obviously Maguire, Martial hasn't really lived up to the name that he was meant to bring. Obviously, we all know what's happened with number 11. So many things have gone wrong for them in the attack. So it's about time for them. I mean, I'm saying this with my rivalry hat off, obviously. It's about time for them that someone did come in and actually, put things on the table they're meant to. Anthony looks good, and it was a great finish. Martial even scoring, 2 very, very point-blank goals, if I'm going to be brutal to him. It's something that you expect him to score, just tap-ins, poacher's effort. But yeah, Man City, I don't know. I was actually looking at their squad because I was quite intrigued to see how many players are on that decline, and the only real one you'd look at, and at the moment it sounds crazy, is De Bruyne. He's the only one that's sort of on that scale of not coming to an end, but everyone else is like Gundogan and him are the oldest players of the team. Average age of 26. Best player in the world, Haaland, 22. Phil Foden still got a mountain to climb. I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, where does it go wrong for them? Like, where do they have that rebuild in time? I don't see it. Like with Arsenal, we've had it where we've lost players and then we've had to rebuild the squad. Liverpool have had it. Obviously, we know back in the Gerrard days. Man City, I feel like they went so long without anything. Now they're just going to keep going.
Amazing what oil money can do, ain't it?
It is ridiculous what oil money can do. But yeah, with a manager like Pep in charge as well.
The thing is, I know they spend a shed load of money, and they do, but they pick up so many decent bargains. I mean, they bought that Akanji for 15 million. I think West Ham spent more than that on that Kira that they bought.
And their depth is just ridiculous as well. Like the fact they can take people like Diaz and Laporte out and just replace them with Nathan Ake and Akanji. And to be honest, I thought they played well together. Other than the fact they're conceding, yes, but they've just got good options all over the place. It is ridiculous.
I do think though that a lot of teams that have, like, you look at the Newcastle game. Newcastle went at City, they went for them, and they caused them a lot of problems. And obviously, City were quite fortunate to get away with a 3-3 draw in that game. The games that we're seeing from City at the minute, where they're beating teams heavily, everyone's sitting back. United were so reserved for that game. They didn't offer really nothing, no penetrating runs in behind. I know it's hard to get the ball, and when you get it, you've got to have a game plan that exposes Man City. And I think the only way to expose Man City and to get any joy against them is meet them fire with fire. And that's to just, when you get the ball, you go for them like they go for you. You do obviously run a risk of leaving yourself vulnerable at the back, but I think that's the only way you're going to get any joy against them. Because if you sit back and let them play, they're just going to pick you apart. They're the best team at breaking down a low block side. They're the best at it.
Yeah, I think United were just shit as well. They didn't really show any fight. Their passing was atrocious. Strange decision for me that they didn't start Casemiro as well.
What's that about?
I was going to bring this up. What's your take on? I mean, the Casemiro thing is one thing, but especially when he's playing certain players as well. I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking I can't connect the dots. Like, okay, you're not giving Casemiro a go, but you've got all your faith in these other players in midfield that are nowhere near as experienced. Their midfield, the defense hasn't been great this season. Let's be honest.
They've got to get McTominay out of there. He's not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm bullying him at this point because I do always bring him up. But
every manager plays him.
Every always play McTominay and not bring in Casemiro. You know, he's won trophies. He's a great leader on the field. What is he doing? And then you've got Ronaldo sitting on the bench as well. I don't know. I don't know about this Ten Hag guy. I hope he's playing with fire, in my opinion.
The thing is with McTominay is every manager who comes in knows that like the fans don't particularly like him, don't particularly rate him. But every manager picks him. Everyone.
Do you feel like it's just a case of they feel like they want to be on his side, they don't want to?
I think
it can't be the performances.
It's probably why they keep getting a sack, mate.
I think it's one of them players where, you know, like they used to say, like Jack Wilshere used to say that Nicholas Bentner in training was the best player he'd ever played with, but then on a Saturday he just didn't do it. I think it's the opposite way around. I think in training they must be seeing Scott McTominay doing certain things where you think, wow, this player is a really good player, but then when it transfers to a match, it doesn't work out that way. That's the only thing I can think of.
The fact that their only other option has been Fred.
Whereas now they have an option. Now they have an option to actually get. Like, why would you use Casemiro and Ronaldo in Europa League and not Premier League? You know,
the only thing I can think of is that Casemiro we just didn't think Casemiro was fit enough to play.
Why go for gold? Surely league has got to be a priority at this point. Like, I'm not being funny, but they want to be hitting that top four thing, or he's gone before the end of the season.
They ain't getting top four, mate. I'm telling you,
they won't. But I'm saying he should be going for that because to me that's a must. With
the
money,
they're not getting top four. They're not good enough to get.
I'm happy with that because I know one team that is. But yeah, look, Ronaldo, don't know what he's doing there. Still, they probably should have just cut their losses.
No one wanted him though. This is the problem.
It's far too. Let's be honest. If you put Ronaldo on the transfer list, someone who's coming and knocking. Let's not be stupid,
mate.
Someone is coming and knocking.
No one's paying a 37, nearly 38-year-old.
Even if it's a situation of what we've done with players before, you know, we've done it with Aubameyang, and we lost out harshly on that. But you just got to cut your losses and move on. If he's no good for the team, use the tools you've got. But yeah, great win for Manchester City. To be honest, it's a bit gutting for me because Arsenal are absolutely flying, but City they can't stop. And at the moment,
welcome to the world of trying to beat City to a title, mate. We've been doing it for 4 years.
Yeah, you've been living it. But yeah, we'll move on. Not too much more speak of Haaland, but Dale's eating humble pie as always. I want to go into some of the other results because there was one, obviously, with Leicester. And I want to talk about one player in particular because I know you was in... I know you was impressed with him last night, Dale, just going off the tweets. Let's talk about James Maddison. Obviously, the results were at the bottom of the screen for those that didn't know. A few 0-0s. Jesse Marsh, love him. Absolutely love him. I've actually grown to love someone from their interviews. Good start for Graham Potter, obviously, at Crystal Palace. But I want to talk about James Maddison. Obviously, focal point at the moment. Everyone's speaking about him and what is potentially going to happen in a month's time. I think I would guess 6 weeks we have, maybe 7, until England travel to Qatar. Do you think this is going to change anything, performances like that? Because if you look at how he's been playing, I mean, I look at people say he can be an 8. I look at him as a 10 because he does too much in terms of goal stats to be a number 8. Taking De Bruyne aside, he's probably been the best 10 in the league this season. I think that's probably not up for debate now. Do you think that is going to, there is any way of him getting in this squad?
No.
Dale, and why do you think that is? Do you think it is now becoming a situation where Southgate is comfortable of what he's got, or do you think it's a situation of what's happened off the field and in previous behaviour? Because obviously there was the moment with COVID, wasn't there, where I think he went out partying or something like that.
But
How does James Maddison get in this team?
If you look at the stats, there was a graphic that Sky Sports put up that his goal involvement since the start, I think it was the start of this season or start of last season? I couldn't remember, but Jack Grealish was rock bottom of that list, and James Maddison was top, bar it. I think it might have been this season, this season's graphics for stats for goal involvement. James Maddison, out of English players, James Maddison was top, Jack Grealish is bottom. But the difference is Southgate. Any other manager, I think he gets in. But it's too late now. I said to you before with the whole Tony thing. Tony could go and score 10 goals between now and the World Cup. He won't go. Maddison's the same. He's in the same boat. He could go and score in every game this season. He won't go. I'm telling you now, Gareth Southgate will not take.
Since May last year, he's had as many goal contributions as Kevin De Bruyne, by the way. So he's up there in that stat at the moment. That's the form he's in, and he's still. I mean.
Also, I don't see a place for
correct me, but you actually get more players to take to Qatar this
but
winter, don't you?
I also think
because of the 5 sub roles. So I don't see how he can't take Maddison. Like who do you take instead?
I don't think the system that England play will get him in either, because at the minute we're playing with a back 5 and 2 almost central midfield players, and then 2 wide men and a striker. So he doesn't fit in a 2-man midfield for me. And Southgate's going to play a back 5. We all know that. He's going to play, 2 in midfield, and then he's going to play
5 against Iran. Here we go.
He's going to. And this is why I just think that it's the wrong time for Maddison, the wrong manager, wrong time. But he's playing probably the best football he's ever played.
I mean, he's not the youngest of players either. Let's be real. Like we've got another 2 years now until a World Cup, and then another. And until Euros, sorry, and then we've got another 2 years after that.
The thing is,
how much longer has the guy got to play as good as he has been?
The thing that bugs me the most about it is that James Ward-Prowse gets in because he's a set piece specialist. That's literally the only reason he's in the squad. James Maddison's also a set piece
that was
specialist.
A great free kick yesterday, brilliant.
Honestly, I do not get how that guy, one, is still at Leicester, how he's not been moved on yet, and someone else hasn't come in for him. But 2, how he doesn't get in that England squad over James Ward-Prowse.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
I mean, Ward-Prowse doesn't get used anyway.
But in
silver
the squad,
lining is the fact that in the squad, I agree. But still, if James Ward-Prowse was getting in the actual team itself and Maddison's being left at home, then there's even more to worry about.
Gareth Southgate will only take players that he knows and he likes. If there's anything about them they don't like, he won't take. And I'm telling you now, Maddison will not go to the World Cup, which is an absolute disgrace, but he won't. I honestly just don't think Southgate knows his squad already. He probably knew it 2 months ago.
Buckle up, boys. It's not coming home. But Leicester.
There seems to be an obsession with the whole England squad, right? With Southgate's decisions in who he takes and who he plays. He seems too focused on what players can't do rather than actually looking at what players can do. You see it perfect. The perfect example is with Trent, with Maddison,
Maguire,
Odin, Tony. Maguire. If we actually started looking at some of the attacking talents we do have, rather than just looking at what they might lack, we'd probably be looking at a much more exciting England team.
Very true. Amen. I think you're preaching for the choir, Lee, but just some mentions. Great goal from Conor Gallagher. Obviously returned to Crystal Palace. Almiron, absolutely brilliant goal from him.
Goal of the weekend, mate.
I know. I looked at Thomas Partey's and I thought that's up there, and then I was like, nah.
Almiron's was lovely.
Almiron's is just different gravy. The way he took it, he's a good player, to be fair. And speaking of that, while we're on Newcastle, that's my guess for James Maddison. If he's going anywhere in January in the Premier League, it is Newcastle.
They tried to get him in the summer, didn't they? I think they had
and it just makes sense to me, because if they're going to aim for like a top 6, top 8 finish, they're going to want some depth in a few years' time or 2 years' time.
Do you know what else stands out?
He's good depth in different areas as well.
Newcastle are on the up. They've got an attacking manager. It'd be a very good.
I think Eddie Howe's a great manager for him to work under as well, just in terms of like
Eddie Howe knows him as well from obviously when Eddie Howe was at Bournemouth and Maddison was at Norwich. They would have come up against each other quite a few times, so he probably knows. He's seen him firsthand on a number of occasions, but. The thing as well, what strikes me with Maddison is obviously Leicester have been probably one of the most out of form teams this season and the back end of last season, and he's still standing out and getting them numbers and them stats in a really poor team. Whereas you've got Jack Grealish, who's playing in the best team in the country, arguably the world, and he's the bottom of the pile in terms of goal involvements.
I'd go easy on Grealish a bit. He had a cracking game at the weekend.
Yeah, he was good against United. To be fair, I think although he didn't score, a lot of those goals don't happen without his work. But yeah, when you pay 100 million for a player who plays on the left wing, and everyone else is doing it as well. We saw Mahrez last season absolutely flying with the numbers. I think he was actually their top goal scorer in the end. I could be wrong, but yeah, Haaland is, just to be clear, 9 goals away from the Golden Boot record of last season, which is mental because we are in October. We have a World Cup in between that. So the season is nowhere near over yet. But yeah, I'm going to agree with our good friend Luke Story, who mentioned earlier, the record is getting smashed. I think 32 is getting completely... I think 40 is a big ask. I saw a cash out yesterday, and I was a bit baffled. I was like, "What are these?" I thought these bookies are trying to save money, but the cash out was £500 from £100 bet for Haaland to score 40 goals. To me, that's a big ask. 40 goals in the Premier League season. You're asking for the player to literally play every game, which Haaland is not doing. Once they get into those knockout stages, there's going to be a few switches about with him, Alvarez, and they've got players in the midfield that can play in that 9 role as well. Foden can do it. You know, we've seen it happen all of last season. Even Grealish was playing there at one point. But yeah, props to Haaland. Probably the real mention of the weekend. However, I feel like we're going to be talking about him every week. So Foden for me. And last but not least, before the game wraps up, the game starts for Liverpool and Rangers very, very shortly. The big one, the boys at it together this weekend, Arsenal versus Liverpool. I'll give my 2 pence. Look, I was confident last week because I've seen how you've been playing this season. I've seen who's not playing well for you. Mo Salah being one of them. But then this is the sort of game where he likes to turn up in. I think Zinchenko and Tierney is going to be a very interesting decision made by Arteta for this one. I think he'll go with his gut and stick with Zinchenko. I'm not sure that's the right call because I think Salah can maybe take more advantage of Zinchenko getting in the midfield. I don't feel like Richarlison did that, so we got away with it. And Zinchenko played well, don't get me wrong, but Salah, Diaz, or Jota, whoever you go with, and Nunez, any 3 of those 4, I want to play as defensively as possible and just try and get the win because we got it all in attack. Martinelli's going to get at Trent if Trent plays, who knows? And on the left, I'd like to think, after the way Xhaka played against Tottenham, I'd like to think he's full of confidence again. To be honest, he just needs a goal. I think that's all he needs now, and then he'll really get running. But he's going underestimated this season just because he's not, he's got the most assists. People are they're speak too highly of other players. Saka's literally got the second most assists in the league, and people are thinking he's playing badly. But yeah, it'll be an interesting one. Lee, give me your thoughts leading up to Sunday. I know you're coming. But yeah, how are you feeling heading into this one? It's probably hard to think about it, given what's going on, obviously, in the next few minutes.
Yeah, I think it depends how this game goes, to be honest. See if the change of formation works. But yeah, it's obviously a very nervous game as a Liverpool fan. Going to the game and sitting in the Arsenal end is not going to be easy.
Now you've said that, I'm going to make sure people watch this and look out for you. I'm trying to think of where you're sitting. I know as well.
Yeah, obviously Arsenal have got a lot of threats. I'm worried about Jesus. I'm worried about Martinelli. I'm not as worried about Saka because I feel like that is our strong side defensively with Tsimikas and Diaz. It's a hard one to predict. Obviously, Jota has had the whole of the Arsenal defence's number since he's arrived, so I can't wait to see him tear Saliba a new one as well. Add him to the club. So yeah, I don't know. I think it might be a score draw. Is my early sort of thoughts.
I think this is one of those games where all these things on Twitter as well. I've seen a lot of things on Twitter. Are Arsenal in a title race? Can Arsenal continue this? This is the game, not Tottenham. This is the game where we show up and say we can do it this year. I think if we win this, not just because of the gap on other teams or whatever, I think this is the statement to be made. Beating Liverpool at the Emirates, we've had a horrible run against your lot. Almost as bad as our run against City at the Emirates, to be honest. We never turn up. If we can actually get a win or even just a good performance and a score draw, it will show something. It will show momentum and show that we are in it. We're not messing about. It is still a little bit too soon. I understand that, but the performances we're doing, we just got to keep that up. And when we play the big boys like yourselves, like City, we need to make up for it and not let the rest go to waste. I agree with Diaz, by the way. I'm very, very worried for what he can bring to the table. I think it's another huge game for Ben White. But then I don't know if he's going to play there, to be honest. He's talking cheese. You never know with you.
I mean, I think everyone saw it on the documentary, the All or Nothing documentary. He has got the fear. He's scared of Jota. He proper got done over last year. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles that if Jota even starts.
Yeah, either way, I think Jota or Diaz, I think White's got his work cut out for him. He did good against Son, but I feel like this is another, this is now, again, you've got to repeat that. And I feel like the fact that Spurs weren't, I'm not going to say they were terrible, but they weren't in full gear. I think Liverpool will be, because you need to win a lot more than what Spurs did at the time. If we win that, we go 14 points clear of you. So that just shows the gap you've got to close on, which is, to be honest, going to be very tough considering how many people. There he is.
King Senior's arrived.
Ready to watch the game. But yeah, I'm going to agree 2-2 score draw. Dale, give us a quick one because I know we haven't got long until the game kicks off, but let us know how you're feeling for Sunday.
I'm a mixture of excited and nervous. To be fair, I usually am, because I tend to go to this game pretty much every season, and I'm never really confident going to it at any point. And like I say, the last sort of 3 or 4 years, we have had a good record at the Emirates, but it is a different dynamic this season with Arsenal. I've just got a funny feeling that we might just scrape it. I don't think it'll be easy. I just got a weird feeling that at some point I think we're going to click, and at least it does kind of depend on how this game goes tonight. If we have a decent win tonight, say a 2-3-0 win, I do think going into that game we'll go in there with a hell of a lot more confidence. So yeah, I'm going to go with a 1-0 Liverpool win, but I wouldn't be surprised if we lost, and I wouldn't be surprised if we draw. But my heart is telling me a 1-0. You're
going to go with a 1-0 win, but you would be surprised if you lost.
No, that's how tight it is. That's how tight it is,
yeah.
Mate. That's how tight it is. That's how tight it is. We could go there and get absolutely slapped 2 or 3-0. We could go. I
think your midfield is going to have to be accurate as well, because Xhaka's he's in a world of his own at the moment. He's in his element.
I do think there might be.
You play your... Give him a lesson.
I do think there might be a slight little bit of mind games going on tonight with Klopp, and looking towards the Arsenal game, that he's changed the system for this game a couple of days before we play Arsenal, maybe just to sort of, what are Arsenal thinking? How are we going to set up? So that might have something to do with it. But my heart says a 1-0 Liverpool win. But
the good thing is, we're not playing Rangers. We're playing Bodo at home. So we haven't got to do any mind games. It'll be a lot of players rested, and the boys are going to be up for it on Sunday. Partey, Xhaka. I don't want to see them anywhere near the team. If anyone, I think Xhaka will probably play on Thursday because he can. And he's used to being relied on quite a lot. But I think Partey will probably be rested. Even Xhaka maybe as well. Fabio Vieira, give him some game time. Chuck Nelson in there. Couldn't care, to be honest. The second stringer are more than capable of getting a job done. But we will be bringing some footage on Sunday afternoon live from the game and pre-match. Hope everyone has a great rest of the week. Boys, good luck tonight. Come on, you Gunners, on Sunday. But yeah, I'm not going to support a Scottish team tonight because that's just not me. There's no rivalry until Sunday morning. There's no rivalry there between Arsenal and Liverpool. But yeah, thanks people for tuning in. Hope you have a good week. Take it easy. Make sure you hit them buttons. Cheers, guys.
Do not scratch your eyes. You are really seeing the most extraordinary finish here.